My name's Aaron Beyer. I'm the Marketing Product Specialist for Gleaner Combines. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you the 3300 series of Command corn heads. A head that's designed to be simple, straightforward, and optimize your harvest by increasing your efficiency and reducing your head loss. The 3300 is available in two different widths, 8 and 12 rows. Both heads use a 30-inch row spacing. The goal of the dividers is to reduce loss both from whole ears and loose kernels. Both the front and rear dividers are made from a low-density polyethylene that absorbs the energy of falling ears and helps prevent them from bouncing outside of the header. The front divider is designed to lift and guide stalks into the row units. And the coves on each side of the front divider are designed to reduce the amount of contact with lower hanging ears that are prone to falling off. The negative angle at the back of the front divider helps deflect falling ears into the row unit as well. The shape of the rear divider is to guide loose kernels and ears into the incoming flow of crop into the row unit. And the dome at the back of the divider helps encourage broken stalks to fall into the auger. To make sure the row divider seals correctly and that we don't lose any loose kernels, the rear row divider needs to be adjusted. Adjust the rear row divider so the bottom of the divider rests evenly along the top of the gathering chain guides. Let's use the rods inside of the front divider to adjust the points to where they're even and so that we minimize the gap at the back of the divider along the top of the gathering chain. If this adjustment's too loose, there's a possibility of getting stalks or material caught between the row divider and the gathering chain. Too tight, and we run the risk of running the gathering chain against the bottom of the row divider. In certain conditions, we can see excessive wear on the rear dividers where the stalks are pulled through. Now this can be due to alignment of the header to the rows or due to just crop conditions. To be able to counter that, there is an extended wear package available for the rear row dividers. For increased protection from header loss due to falling ears, ear savers are available as a field installed kit that install on the back side of the front row divider. Now you'll want to be careful with those ear savers because they could come in contact with those lower ears on the stalk and cause them to fall off. Now, if you're seeing a lot of turbulence at the interface between the auger and the feeder house, it might be beneficial to install those ear savers across the front of that intersection to be able to decrease the amount of header loss due to falling ears. Now, increasing your header speed can help alleviate that issue as well. Snout skids are available as a field installed kit to install on the front of the row dividers. These snout skids help keep the front of the row divider from gouging into the ground, and they work really great in fields with pivot tracks. Now if you're going after down corn, it might be necessary to take these snout skids off to be able to get the front of the row divider underneath those stalks of the down corn. The center row dividers are held closed with a simple latch. To open the center row dividers, simply push up on the latch and lift the row divider. Remove a pin securing the front adjustment rod to the rear row divider. Remove that adjustment rod from the bracket and allow the front row divider to pivot down. Continue to lift on the row divider until the center gas shock is secured in the front mount.
Secure the divider point in the raised position by installing the pin through the bracket. To lower the divider point, reverse the process. First, remove the pin securing the divider point in the raised position. Lift up on the gas strut while lowering the divider point. You will then want to install the adjustment rod in the bracket on the front of the rear divider. Use the pin to secure the adjustment rod in the bracket. Lower the divider point until it latches on the front bracket. Make sure that it securely latches. To raise the end dividers, release the latch. While lifting the divider, make sure the hook clears the support bracket. Remove the adjustment rod from the bracket on the front of the rear divider. Push the divider point towards the header. Install the divider point in the loop on the support bracket.
All 3300 corn heads come standard with a factory installed hood over the transition between the auger and the feeder house. This hood prevents ears from being thrown out at this transition. If additional sealing is needed, you can order and install a rubber curtain that installs to the front of the hood. You'll need to watch though, because that curtain could impede the flow of material into the auger at the center 4 row units. Additionally, an operator can install a field-installed walking platform across the top of the header. This walking platform allows operators to get around the full front of the cab to be able to clean the windshield or access anything on the front of the operator cab. All Gleaner 3300 corn heads come with the ability to pitch the fore and aft angle of the head to be able to put the header as flat as possible to the ground to reduce thrown ears, or pitch the header forward to go after downed corn. The operator uses 2 buttons inside the operator cab on the MFA to be able to change the pitch of the header. The operator is going to use a gauge located on the right-hand side of the feeder house to determine the pitch of the header. Or if they've installed the field-installed header pitch sensor, they're going to be able to see that angle in the Info Plus quadrant of the Titan terminal. The header pitch accumulator, located to the left-hand side of the feeder house, allows a certain amount of cushion when operating the header in rough terrain, or a certain amount of float when operating with the header close to the ground. Position the valve to be able to allow oil to flow in and out of the accumulator. Make sure the header pitch is between positive or negative 5 to get the maximum amount of cushion or float. Rather than using a fluted interlaced design, the picking rolls of the 3300 Command cornhead use a point-to-point knife. Then in addition to pulling the stock through the row units, it helps break it down. By crushing and crimping the stock, we're able to break down that organic material while reducing wind erosion and helping increase the retention of moisture in the soil. We need to make sure those knives are adjusted correctly to have between a 0.25 and 2 millimeter or 10 to 80 thousandths of an inch gap when the knives are closest together. Now, if the front edge of those knives gets worn, you can flip the knife from roll to roll and position the sharper edge towards the front of the picking roll again. If either one of the picking rolls is replaced or removed, there's 3 things that are important to remember. First, there's a certain amount of play that's allowed in each of these picking rolls. This is adjusted using shims between the front mount and the frame. The second thing to remember is that the picking rolls are timed. There's timing marks that we need to make sure that are aligned to prevent the cast pieces from contacting each other and to ensure that the knives are point to point when they're rotating. The third thing to remember is that the end of these picking rolls need to be aligned to make sure that the picking rolls are parallel. There's a special tool that bolts to the end of the picking rolls to make sure that those are aligned. Consult your operator manual or your dealer for more information. While we're under here, we can take a look at these 2 grass knives. These grass knives prevent grass or weeds from wrapping around the picking rolls. To make sure they're able to do that, we need to make sure they're adjusted. So we need to have at least a 0.5 to 1.5 millimeters gap, or 20 or 60 thousandths of an inch between the highest point of the picking roll and the grass knife. Now we've had 2 different designs of gathering chains on the 3300 Command cornhead. The earlier design used a rounded lug and was configured to have the lugs positioned lug to lug. Now the later version used a square lug such as this. And from the factory, they're configured to be in a staggered configuration. If we wanted to increase the aggressiveness of the feeding of the row, we would reconfigure this or reposition them to be lug to lug. Now to adjust the tension or to check the tension, we're going to use this little pin at the end here. We're going to measure how much is showing. We want 9 to 12 millimeters or 3/8 to half of an inch showing. If we're going to adjust that or need to adjust it, we're going to loosen the jam nut at the back and use the adjustment bolt until we get the right amount showing at the front. When we're done, we're going to tighten that jam nut. Now the deck plates are designed to do 2 things. Reduce row plugging and reduce header loss due to butt shelling. Where the stock is pulled through, the deck plates are angled down to reduce the shock on the end of the ear that causes butt shelling. The portion in the front part of the deck plates is raised. This decreases the clearance between the gathering chain lug and the deck plate and reduces the chance that we get a stock caught between the 2 of them and plugging the row. Before we start harvest, it's important to make sure that the deck plates are indexed correctly or adjusted correctly. We're going to check that by closing the deck plates down to their minimum clearance and then measuring at the front of the deck plate and the back of the deck plate. We want a gap that's 3 millimeters wider at the back than at the front. To adjust that, we're going to adjust the left-hand deck plate. Refer to the operator manual for that procedure. The operator can see the relative deck plate position in two places. The first place is using this gauge on the back side on the left-hand side of the header. The other place is in the Titan terminal in either the header section of the Info Plus quadrant or in the header settings screen. The large diameter and the pitch of the flighting allow the auger to move a large amount of material at a slower rotation speed. This helps create a high capacity head that limits the amount of crop damage and thorny ears. The flighting at the center of the auger is overlapped. This allows the material to be evenly distributed across the opening of the feeder house. This creates a more consistent crop mat for more consistent threshing. The auger is positioned directly over the rear of the gathering chains. This creates a more efficient transition between the row unit and the auger, and is a real benefit in downed corn and eliminates the need for a corn reel. There's a vertical and a horizontal adjustment at each end of the auger. Now there's not much benefit to adjusting it other than the 10 to 18 millimeter gap between the auger flighting and the stripper angles. But it's important to maintain that gap to make sure crop continues to convey and as components wear. Some operations require the base of the stock to be broken over or crushed. This is either for residue management or to protect the tires of the combine. To meet this need, stock stompers are available as a field-installed kit. Each kit includes 4 stock stompers and uses the existing mounting for the row unit and 2 bolts to secure it to the head. Each stock stomper has 4 positions to be able to adjust it to the needed height and is spring-loaded to maintain downforce to crush those stalks. Both 8 and 12 row corn heads can be optioned as chopping corn heads. This puts a chopper directly below the picking rolls of the row unit. Now this is for operations that need to size or completely destroy the stock. The nice thing about these row units though is that you can engage some chopping units and disengage others. That way you can chop some rows and leave other rows standing to be able to capture snow and valuable moisture. You're going to use a lever on the side of the row unit to be able to do that. So pull on the lever to engage the chopper and push on the lever to disengage the chopper. All Command Series corn heads come from the factory with the wiring needed to install a row guidance sensor that can be used when harvesting corn with an S9 series of Gleaner combine. This level of guidance is great for fields with straight rows and fairly level terrain. Simply set your guidance source as row guidance in the Titan terminal, and when you've entered into the crop and the machine is aligned with the rows, hit the engage button on the multifunction lever. If you notice that the header is crowding one side or is not running down the center of the rows, use the slider in the guidance screen to be able to center the combine on the rows. If you'd like to use automatic header height control or auto tilt, you need to install one of 2 different drag rod kits on the head. Now both kits use head sight drag rods to be able to sense the relationship of the header to the ground. Now the one kit is a 2 sensor kit that puts a sensor at each end of the header at the last snout. This is primarily used on 8 or 12 row corn heads. The other kit is a 4 sensor kit that puts 1 sensor at each end and 2 sensors in the middle. This is primarily for 12 row corn heads. Now on either kit, we recommend that you install the extension that extends the drag rod closer to the ground. This allows for more resolution in sensing that relationship of the header to the ground. Now after you install that extension, you need to make sure that there's no interference at the end drag rods between the loop that holds or stores the end divider point or any of the skids in behind it. If this hangs up, it'll give you a false reading and tilt the head one way or the other. There are 2 components that hold a reservoir of oil on the corn head. The first are the row unit gearboxes themselves. The others are the chain drive boxes located on the left and right hand side of the head. We're going to use the plug located towards the rear of the chain drive box to check the oil level. If the oil level is low, we're going to fill it through the front plug. We're going to use 821XL until the level is even with the rear plug. Of course, you want to install those plugs when you're done. The check and fill plug for both chopping and non-chopping row unit gearboxes is located forward of the left-hand gathering chain drive sprocket. Use the dipstick integrated into the fill plug to check the oil level in the gearbox. If it's low, fill the gearbox with 85W140 to the proper level. On chopping corn head, there's an additional check plug. The plug, located directly above the chopper gearbox, has an integrated dipstick. You're going to use that dipstick to check the oil level and fill the gearbox with 85W140 if the level is low. I want to thank you for spending some time with me today to learn more about the 3300 series of Command corn heads from Gleaner. To find out more, visit gleanercombines.com or visit with your local dealer. Thanks.